Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast. I'm Max Hayes, channeling my inner Jim White at 11:30 p.m. on this Friday evening. For all us Forest fans and just general football fans, it's like Christmas Day, this, isn't it? Deadline day, and we'll be here for the next, well, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes, depends if we fall asleep by then, to discuss, of course, deadline day and Nottingham Forest's transfer window on a whole, really, and as they make two more additions today, which we'll get on to very shortly. Joined, first of all, by well, I'd actually say our very own Jim White, our very own nocturnal man, Dave Asprey. Dave, do you know what I was thinking this morning, Max? You're going to get back from working in media all day. You're going to be quite tired. You're going to, it's going to be quite late. Who better to get on and to keep you awake and just to keep talking at you? So there we go. Hence your arrival.
I think they might be asleep in 5 minutes, given the booming drone of my voice, Max. But yeah, it's. I mean, who better to get on the graveyard shift for than a rotting old cadaver like I am, mate? You know what I mean? So yeah, it's really good, mate, to see you.
Good.
I do like this kind of unorthodox idea of like doing one at this time, and I'm all for like Midnight with Max becoming a thing down the line, mate. So no, it's really good to see you. I feel quite wide awake, but then I'm a pretty minimal sleeper. I'm terrified of missing stuff, missing a football result or a racing result or a Gus Atkinson century in the Test match or Hull Kingston Rovers against Salford or whatever it might be. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm good to go, mate. It's nice to be here.
Good stuff. Well, I couldn't find a yellow tie to put on for deadline day, so sadly you'll just have to deal with us in our smart casual wear. It is smart casual in the media these days, isn't it? Mark Turner will also be joining us from the States very shortly. It's pretty much afternoon for him, so he's got the whole day ahead of him, and he'll be joining us shortly. But Dave, let's get into it actually, and we'll start with deadline day. Forest, just in the last kind of 20 minutes or so, announcing James Ward-Prowse on a season-long loan from West Ham. He's a man that has caused Forest many problems in the past in terms of set pieces. We'll get on to all of that. And also joining Forest, of course, the Benfica central defender, Morato. There we go. We'll get there with the pronunciations one day. There's so many M's, Dave. Too many M's, isn't there, around for us?
Yeah, there are, mate.
But I guess first of all, mate, just your initial thoughts on a good window and an even better maybe transfer deadline day.
Yeah, I think, Max, we've learned the lessons of the last couple of years where we were, cluster bombing and it was scattergun and it was just like, grab this guy from over here, grab this guy from over there, and they didn't seem. I think the last couple of seasons we started off with an idea of a strategy and then it's gone a little bit haywire. I think we've been incredibly measured this window. I mean, he's gone yellow tie. I'm as goth as they come. So I think what we've done, Max, has been commendable. It's interesting. I've just been watching a couple of friends' channels on YouTube at Tottenham and Arsenal, and they are falling over themselves to kind of be unhappy about what they've done or what they've not done. Whereas I'm looking at us and thinking that the adults have got in the room at last. And I really like what we've done. I don't, it sort of says something when you can turn down a £35 million bid for Anthony Elanga. It says that Forest have made this progression from the last two seasons. I mean, as regards to the two that have come in today, Morato, I don't really know much about him. I've had a look at his stats. He's not played all that many games in the Portuguese league, but he's a powerful left-sided defender. So I guess he's been brought in as the next cab on the rank behind Murillo in that spot. James Ward-Prowse I really like. I've always admired James Ward-Prowse. I kind of thought before he went to West Ham, wouldn't it be really nice to nip in there ahead of Moisey and his lot and take James Ward-Prowse and bring him up here and show him a beautiful river and a lovely cosmopolitan city with great clubs and nightlife and whatever else. So we've got him. It's kind of a year after I really wanted him, but a season-long loan. I think it's a smashing move for us because he brings great experience, international football. He's got. I was on a pod last night and I referred to him as the Liam Neeson of Taken because he's got a particular set of skills, which are going to come in handy for any team that has his services, right? And I just think it's a really, really good sign. It's a good move for James as well. He was clearly, I I couldn't actually. It's amazing how he fell off the cliff at West Ham and tumbled down the pecking order. A guy of that talent, but clearly the people at West Ham didn't sort of see him fitting in or didn't rate him. I think Nuno will probably have admired him for quite a while, and I think he's going to come to a place where he's going to be made to feel welcome. And I think he's going to come straight in and be, a guy with immense knowledge, and he'll have that seniority in the squad, because it is still, across the board, it's a relatively young squad. I imagine he'll go into that leadership group with Woody and Morgan, Yatesy, people like that. So I think it's a really good bit of business. Morato, as I say, I don't really know a lot about, other than it sounds to me like were anything to happen to our Murillo, then he would come in. But they've just shown a graphic on Sky Sports. Actually, no, I was looking at another pod, and the graphic had 2 players for every position. I hope it was ours, Dave. I'm not at pains to name the other source, Max, but we have 2 players in every position now. And I think that, Nuno wanted to de-bloat the squad, but he wanted to have that particular level of depth. And I think we've arrived at that point now, mate.
Yeah, we certainly have. Good points, mate. Good points. Also joining us below, he kind of just magically appeared in true Jim White fashion. If you are watching live on Facebook and YouTube, look at him in his yellow tie. He could almost be Jim White. I'm not going to ask him for his best Jim White impression, because an American / Scottish accent. And I don't know how that'd go. Mark, go on. Here you go. Time to shine. Over to you, Jim White.
Hello. Yeah, Dave and I are of a similar age. If I try and do a Scottish accent, it's going to be Russ Abbott influence. It'll be "Okay the new," which is going to offend all of our Scottish viewers and listeners. So
it's a broadlick nicht.
There you go. That's much.
So apologies to all our Scottish viewers.
Yeah. Apologies.
The first thing I want to say is the City Ground apparently has become hyphenation station, because now we have Morgan Gibbs-White, Callum Hudson-Odoi, James Ward-Prowse. I mean, surely it's only a matter of time for Trent Alexander-Arnold and Kyle Walker-Peters rock up.
Absolutely, mate. That'd be great.
Is this the most hyphenated Forest has ever been in its history, Dave? You think? I
think it may well be. Yeah, I don't remember any hyphenation in the glory days of Clough and Taylor and
Ian Storey-Moore. Is the only I think of. Ian Storey-Moore.
And I tell you what. Oh, don't get me started on him. What a player! What a great player he's doing. I mean, there was enough hyphen in that one man to cover generations, Mark. Wonderful. It's a great shout, that, mate.
And this is the first time I've been on the show with you, Dave. So, Max, you can go and head off to bed now, mate. It's late. It's past your bedtime.
It is, mate. It's past my bedtime. I'm off.
No,
I'm finished.
It's lovely to be on with you, Mark, at last, mate. Bless you.
Absolutely, fella.
Right.
You too.
Let's get into it. We've got a lot of people watching. We've got over about 150, and it's 20 to midnight here in the UK. So we will take that. So all of us night owls that are still up. Right. Let's get into it, and I'll read out a few comments. First of all, Mark says, James Ward-Prowse, awesome signings. David says from Australia, of course, one of our podcast contributors, just waking up. What's the update? Who did we sign? Wait out and find out for the next 30 minutes.
Harry Kill.
Harry Kill. Glenn says, good evening. Good evening. Great window. Such strength and depth in most areas. Alex says some commitment, chaps. Tell us about it, hey? On the graveyard shift. Well, it's not actually the graveyard shift for you, is it, Mark? You've got your whole day ahead of you, mate.
This is great for me. Usually I'm in the pajamas. Right now it's 10 to 5 in the afternoon. This is brilliant.
Right, Mark, you kick us off really with your thoughts on James Ward-Prowse. I know we've just kind of touched on him there, but I'll read out a few stats in a minute. I can't go a stream without reading out some statistics that I've sourced. But as Dave alluded to, he's a player that I think Forest would have been interested in a while. And when he became available at West Ham and the name was on the list last night, according to many people, Forest contacted him quickly this morning. He had his medical and officially signed on the dotted line and announced just about 40 minutes ago now. And that for me is it's a bit of a statement signing, as well as, look, James Ward-Prowse being an excellent player, but it's a statement signing that Forest are a well-run club now off the pitch, and this has been a very good window, and we've ended it on a very big high. Would you agree?
Yeah, I absolutely would. I mean, I'm entirely in lockstep with Dave in regards to when Southampton went down. I would have loved to have seen JWP at the City Ground at that point in time. You have to remember, this is a player that when Southampton got relegated from midfield, he still contributed 11 goals that season, which is pretty remarkable. And he hasn't been a slouch at West Ham as well. I think he's 7 goals to the good and almost double that in terms of assists, many of which, as we know, come from dead ball situations, which, hey, guess what? Forest have sucked at those for the last 2 seasons. So
they have.
So to Dave's point, I mean, joined up thinking all ends up. And, and quite frankly, if they only wheel on James Ward-Prowse whenever we have a crucial dead ball situation in the final minutes of the game to win all 3 points, I'll be perfectly happy with that. But you have to remember, this is a player very much in and around the England setup as recently as 18 months, 2 years ago. And he's not done. He's not done on that front.
No.
If anything has happened with Morgan Gibbs-White this week to underscore the fact that players are still in the mix. Jack Grealish is back in the England team. I mean, James Ward-Prowse is not done. And if he shows up and has a fantastic season at the City Ground this year, could be big things for him. So, yeah, delighted to have him in the Garibaldi.
Yeah, good stuff, and totally agree. Let's read out a few of his statistics provided by the brilliant WT Analysis again, and he's done a little player map on him, and apologies for reading from my phone. But in terms of, this was at West Ham, Mark, so you were right. He had 7 goals, 6 assists, minutes played 3,365. They ranked his possession and keeping the ball as an A+, his creativity a B, his attacking an A, he's scoring an A, and obviously, as you can imagine, expected assists per 90 were up there with the highest in the league, and not just the Premier League, but he was also, whilst at Southampton, the best player for taking set pieces in terms of, statistically speaking, in the whole of the Football League. So not a bad player.
Yeah, I think he had more assists, including cup games, I want to say. I don't want to come across WT there because they know their stuff. One other thing I want to say, Max, as well, for me, as you well know, arguably the best player against Newcastle the other night was Moreno. I don't think that's any accident. This is a fellow who's on loan, who's got something to prove, whether it's to his mother club or get himself a contract with Forest. James Ward-Prowse is in exactly the same boat.
Like Callum Hudson-Odoi was.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Any guy that's on a redemption mission, Callum, I absolutely love Callum to pieces. After what happened at Chelsea and the injuries, and he could have gone here for big money and all that, he's really come and he's shown, real down to earth, excellent attitude, Callum. And I think Moreno is in the same boat. James will come and he'll want to kind of say, right, I want to play some football now, because bottom line is, for all the money and the glamour and the luxury that these guys, earn for themselves, it's about kicking a football on a piece of grass. That's what it's all about. And I think these lads have, Callum's shown it. Moreno, as Mark rightly says, Moreno showed it the other night, fit straight in. I mean, to my way of thinking, this last week has been an extension of the best period for our club since we got promoted. I think from the minute we did this really great work to avoid a points deduction, which was, that to me was let's get rid of that straight away so we can concentrate, and we're not looking over our shoulder money wise. The players that we sold to kind of deal with that, good lads, but not absolutely essential to us. My fear leaving Burnley on May the 19th, that Sunday afternoon, was if we're going to avoid a points deduction, either Morgan or Murillo are going to have to go. They're still here. And I think, what we've seen, off the field has been really canny and measured and considered. I think the football throughout pre-season was watchable. Wasn't fantastic, but watchable. And that theme has continued. I mean, in many ways, the best performance Forest have put on for a long, long time was Wednesday night. Because, I mean, going into that match, you kind of think, well, Eddie's put a side out here that wants to win this cup. Eddie's playing his big guns, right? And you look at Forest and you think, well, Nuno's clearly having a look-see at the supporting cast. Then you concede after 20 seconds, you think, and I'm sat there in the Trent End thinking, this is going to be a long, arduous night. And then that supporting cast with Elliot Anderson pretty much pulling the strings. I thought he was outstanding, Elliot Anderson. Gave, one of the kind of the next club after the big six, if you like, them and Villa, gave them a real good game, and then they were into penalties with the lottery. I thought there was so much. It reminded me of when we went to Liverpool 2 seasons ago and we lost 3-2. Everybody came out of Anfield or who'd watched the match, and nobody minded that we lost because there was so much to admire in what we did, and it was the same on Wednesday night. And I just think, I looked at it and I thought, Nuno would be so pleased. Yeah, he'd be upset at losing, and he'd be upset for Ibra to miss the penalty and for Taiwo to miss the penalty, because nobody wants to see lads that happen to lads, you know. But I think he will look at it and thought, oh, Jota Silva's put his hand up. Ramon Sousa's put his hand up. Alex Moreno's put his hand up. Eric De Silva Moreira, for like, what, 1.5 million, has put his hand up. Carlos Miguel doesn't have to put his hand up because he's just so much taller than everybody else anyway. LeBron, as I now call him. So I think, you know, and then getting James in today and getting Morato in today, I think it neatly tops and tails what we've been doing. I'm never go over the top, but I'm quietly pleased about what we've done, and I think it's given us a nice platform. Obviously, let's hope we win tomorrow to top the week off perfectly.
Me too, Dave. Me too. Sit here with my nice Forest pen from the season, from the singing season ticket.
Oh, the singing season card. Oh, the singing season card is the greatest football innovation in the history of the universe. Not one other club on this planet, or Jupiter, or Saturn, or Mercury, or Uranus, or Neptune has ever done it. And I think it's brilliant. Forest are world leaders in season card presentation. It's amazing. Amazing.
Dave Asprey on a Friday evening, 30th of August at 10 to midnight, full of enthusiasm.
The club are going to clip that. The club are going to use it on the
Mark, honestly, mate, it's a shame that you're where you are. I mean, there's lots of good things about being in the States, mate, but you don't get a singing season card in the States, mate. Here in little Stoke-on-Trent and Nottingham, we get singing season cards, mate. Honestly, mate, it's just the best thing ever.
So I'll tell you what we do get. I'll tell you what we do get here very quickly, Dave, because this will tickle you. So our local team here in Colorado Springs is called the Colorado Springs Switchbacks. They play in USL, which is the tier below MLS. Yeah, I have to go a full 90 minutes all the way up to Denver to go see the terrible Rapids, which I'm not going to bother with. So anyway, go see the Switchbacks. Every single home game is themed. Yeah. So this last one we just had was wizard themed. I defecate you not. Sorry, Max. Let's pull the reins.
No, you can swear. You can swear because that's 9 o'clock.
You guys are after the
watershed. Rules.
You guys are right after the watershed. But it was wizard themed. We have one that's superhero themed. We also have one that was, and I don't quite know what the theme was, but they gave away free underwear for real. Seriously, underwear. Right. Yeah. Every single home game has a theme. I'll get you guys the list. I'll put it up on Twitter so the rest of the Forest fans can enjoy it. You don't get that at the City Ground.
No,
you know,
you certainly don't.
I'm so tempted to digress and go off into a tangent about singing underpants now, but I don't think I'll bother. I excrement you not.
Right, back to transfers, which is what we're here for. I'm the youngest one, and it's like controlling two young kids full of energy.
It's caring the community, Max. That's what it is, mate.
Maybe the reason I do this podcast
from the Harry Enfield show. Anyone remembers that?
I do remember that, Mark. Yeah. Well, I wasn't around when it was released, but you know, I've seen clips. Right, back onto transfers, and a bit of information that's just come out of Forest is that Alex Myton's joined MLS side San Diego on a permanent deal. So
it all ties together.
Officially. Yeah. It all ties together, Mark. So there you go. He's signed on a 2.5-year contract, of course, the 22-year-old winger for Forest. He'd been involved slightly in the Championship, and he's been at the club a while, an academy prospect. But he's departed Forest officially now. We will probably never see him again. So best of luck to Alex. And other departures today from Forest was Josh Bowler, of course, on a season-long loan to Preston. We won't touch much on that, probably. We'll touch about the news surrounding Anthony Elanga and the links close to the end of deadline day in a short while. However, we've got to touch on the other player that Forest brought in today, which was the central defender from Benfica, Morato. Mark, what did you make of him? As Dave alluded to slightly earlier in the podcast, we don't know much about him, but it's more depth. It's another central defender who's apparently really good aerially, according to a mate, a Benfica friend. He says he's very good at defending and attacking set pieces. So Forest have brought him in. They've brought Milenkovic in, who's great in the air, and they've brought James Ward-Prowse, who's brilliant at taking set pieces. It all lines up right. But just your thoughts on that signing, Mark, and really maybe where you see him fitting in at Forest as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we do that quickly, the Mighton move, I think, is an interesting one. He's moving to a new franchise in MLS, which means he's probably going to get a fair crack of the whip right out the gate. Yeah. And I think you have to remember as well, he has American parentage or grandparentage.
Yeah,
he does.
He does, yeah.
So he shows up in America, he blows up in MLS. There's a good opportunity he might end up in Poch's plans in the US men's national team. Don't be surprised if you see Alex Mighton featuring in the World Cup here in a couple of years. It could happen. Stranger things have.
Yeah.
In terms of a lad from Benfica, well, firstly, Benfica is weirdly my Portuguese team. So I have this weird little thing that I do. Obviously, Forest are in my heart, in my head, love them forever. No team comes above Nottingham Forest. But in order for me to be interested in other leagues, Max, I need to have a dog in the hunt. So I've actually, and this was from a very early age, adopted clubs in every one of the major leagues. For no rhyme nor reason, other than I thought their logo was good and I like their kit color. Surprise, surprise, it was red. I adopted Benfica about 20 plus years ago. So I can tell you a little bit about this bloke. Well, actually, I can't tell you much more than what you already summarized, all of which, at least I can say, is true. He's very good in the air. He's very physical, very strong, decent over 10 yards. I wouldn't call him, Kyle Walker quick, but he's not, and I say this with all love, not Joe Worrell paced. He's a little nippier than that, again, particularly over the first 5 to 10 yards. I think what is most galling, Max, is that Forest have now signed another defender whose name begins with M. I mean, Max, what are they trying to do to us, mate? How are we going to keep this square? The entire defence begin with M. This is mental. Pun intended.
Yeah. They're going to sign. They're going to sign me and you next, Mark and Max.
Well, at the back we've got Millie Molly and we've got Mabad Daly at the back, Murillo Morato, Moreno, Mola Maina, Nico Williams.
So to your point on that, Max, he's going to provide depth, obviously, in those positions. No Willy Bolling won't go on forever. And we do need depth in those positions as well. I think we've been talking for the last few weeks, Max, about how we're one injury away from being desperate up top of the field, and we haven't really resolved that in this transfer window. We're not too far away from being desperate at the back either. If Murillo or Milichenko gets injured, then Milenkovic, gets injured, confusing it with another transfer signing, we could be in a little bit of dire straits there too. I think the cover we have is maybe a little sketchy. So I do like seeing depth in that area, and I think that's what he'll provide.
Yeah, for sure. Lots of comments coming in on YouTube and Facebook Live. This comment, we now have a side full of assists. Moreno, Joe, is that Mark Turner commenting? Callum Hudson-Odoi, James Ward-Prowse, Morgan Gibbs-White, Anderson. It's exciting to be a Red right now. Well done all at Forest. David says Yates is a starter in midfield, finally put to bed now. Max, your prediction of 12th is looking good now. I told you, positivity is the way forward. This big comment from Liam, which covers Mark, says 2 great set pieces takers in Sosa and Ward-Prowse, which we've cried out now for 2 seasons, battling every position. Yes, we need a striker, but I see that key target in January. I believe we can get the best out of Wood with the service he will now get into him with the new additions. 2 class keepers, in which last season having Turner and Vlachodimos was a key reason for some of the goals we conceded. Really good to see. We also kept hold of key players. Looks an exciting season ahead. ... Liam, that was an essay, mate, but I love that comment. Great comment and some really good points there. Yeah. I mean, it's an odd one, isn't it, Mark? You mentioned about Morato and another Forest player, another defender signing for Forest. You can tell the late nights kicking in. Is that what Forest needed? I mean, I was shocked. I know he can play left back, but I was shocked to see another player sign, particularly in central defence. Or as you mentioned, you think that they need that depth, Mark?
Yeah, no, I do think they needed depth there. I think the challenges at centre forward have glossed over a little bit the lack of depth at centre back.
Yeah.
We have 2 fantastic starting centre backs. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I'd say as good as any pairing outside of the top 6, quite frankly, and maybe as good as even a couple of teams within the top 6, assuming they stay fit. So if either of them get injured, I do get a little bit worried. So I think additional depth there isn't an issue, particularly at the price point, Max. I am still, though, concerned about the other end of the field. And we see Eddie Nketiah secured his move to Crystal Palace for 30 million quid. I don't know that I would want to spend 30 million quid on Eddie Nketiah, but it does concern me that we haven't shored that up. That being said, coming back to the comment from I apologise, the gentleman who just put that huge dissertation up over my face.
Liam.
Thank you, Liam. We do have an abundance.
Most beautiful you've ever looked, Mark.
Yeah, we do have I couldn't even see it. That's right. Yeah, we do have an abundance of assists now, and beyond that, we have a lot of I think creativity in that top end of the field as well. So we saw that a little bit against Newcastle. A lot of interchanging play, a lot of players moving around, taking up different positions. The fullbacks getting in behind, which was really encouraging. So not having an out and out focal point beyond Chris Wood, and I don't think we have that right now, because I'm not even going to rate Taiwo at this moment in time. I think he's well off the pace. It doesn't concern me massively, but it is an area of weakness still, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say with the strike, I was going to get onto it in a minute, but we kind of have to discuss the striker situation. Forest were interested really late on, and I know that they were exploring options, some that weren't even revealed in the media as well. But Dave, it is a bit of a funny one, and you don't want Forest to be desperate, and you don't want them to panic buy. But I think after watching the Newcastle game, the one negative I just thought of was that Forest really needed a striker. Saying that, yes, we can maybe rely on Chris Wood. Yes, he scored all those goals last season, but you just worry with Taiwo not being fully fit, with stuff obviously off the pitch happening with him. He looks a player low on confidence, that Forest really did need to go out and sign a striker today. Or do you think, hang on a minute, let's stop panicking. We're going to be all right. Taiwo is still fit. He's not injured at the moment. He's going to be working on his confidence. He's going to be working on himself, and that, football's a long time, but we've got a few months till January. So if all goes wrong, we can get a striker then, or is that easier said than done?
I mean, with Taiwo, I thought the other night that he was trying his damnedest, like he always does. So the attitude with Taiwo, never in doubt. He's as honest as the day's long. He gives a lot for this club. He gives a lot every time he plays. And I've run teams in the past where a lad will give 100% one week and he's awful, and a lad will give the exact same the next week and he's brilliant, because that's just human imperfection. It's the ups and downs, the vicissitudes of life. And Taiwo is having a little bit of a low time, but who's not to say that Taiwo will come good? He's a good guy, like all of our lads, right? All of our guys are good guys. We've got a squad full of extremely likable and admirable young men. They are worth my time. They are worth the emotion I invest in them. I love them to pieces, all of them. I'm so proud of what I see of them. Now, Woody, the conversation we had about Woody exactly this time last year was the same as the kind of the one we're having about Taiwo now. Well, this guy, and I was as guilty of it as thinking, has Chris just gone over the top? What a season he had. He's absolutely outstanding. With Woody, and I don't want to get all sentimental, but my dear old man, in those months leading up to the time he passed, was telling me, Chris Wood's a good player. He'll come good, son. He came good at Burnley. He came good at Leeds. He came good at Newcastle. He'll do Forest a turn. And I was like, I'm not so sure, Dad. I think he's like, almost to the moment when the old boy went, Woody started scoring. And Woody has become a key man for us. He's a leader on and off the field, right? So I think, I was reading an article today where somebody was saying, while people might be panicking, Chris Wood is a tried and trusted source of goals. So I have no worries about Woody. The Taiwo thing does worry me a little bit. It's almost as if the injuries have caught up with him. That's not his fault. That's just a lad trying hard, getting I hate this idea that people seem to, he's injury prone, as if the guy means to be injury prone. No, get that out of the way. But I've been thinking since Wednesday night, there might actually be a guy who could do as a job in and around Woody if we needed to put somebody in the box. And I thought Jota Silva. Look where Jota Silva was when he scored that brilliant goal.
Yeah,
he also got into the middle of the box to pressurise Popey by getting under him, trying to head it in. And Jota Silva, I mean, he got the man of the match award the other night, and he was excellent. And he's just got this little bit of terrier about him. He's got a bit of personality, and I think I don't think Ramon Sousa's a winger, Callum's a winger, Anthony's a winger. Jota Silva to me looks like he's saying, go and play off Woody, or go and play off Time, and go and play up front, and he'd love it. I mean, that goal was I was in the Trent end. He hit it that well. I thought it had hit the post and come back out. What he did, it hit the post, then it hit the bar at the back of the net that holds the net down and came out. It was a thing of beauty. And that, to me, was an instinctive strike of a guy who, yeah, this guy's got a goal or two in him. So Mark's point, the creativity is absolutely there. But I don't think we need, I mean, I did fancy having a striker, but it just like, you know, our efforts have sort of fallen on stony ground. Sergio Jimenez was never going to come. He's holding out to be with his Uncle Arnie slot at Liverpool. Johan Visser, I thought, was a really audacious little move because, Ivan Toney's going. But to my way of thinking, Brentford are better with Mbeumo and Visser than they were with Toney. You know what I mean? So he was never going to come. Eddie Nketiah, I thought, no, he won't go out of London. He'll stay where he is. He can stay at home and just move across to play for Palace. So he's never going to come back. But having seen, I don't know, maybe I'm hooking too much on Jota Silva. Having seen him the other night, I think there's a player there, and he might be an option there. But I think what we'll probably see is that when January Hove's interview, then it'll be striker, and then anything else is a bonus. Striker might well be. But we just need to see between tomorrow and when the window reopens again. But I'm not. I was a few weeks ago. I was a bit. We need a striker, but then I'm not so much now because I think we've brought a real good sort of core of a squad together with plenty of options. You know. So no, I'm not pestered at all. My quiet optimism perpetuates.
Yeah, you're turning me here. Yeah, no, you're turning me there a little bit, Dave. Only because the reality is we don't need to get to the end of the season with what we have. We just need to get to the January transfer window.
Absolutely. Well, that's my view, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's an abundance of attacking talent in this team. Not number 9 per se, but there's enough goals and assists in the players we have to ensure that we're in a good spot. We're safe come the January transfer window. And then maybe bring another target man in, or an out-and-out number 9 if it feels necessary.
Do you know what, Mark? When I was a kid watching, I grew up watching English football. Every team in the old First Division, sort of late 60s, early 70s, had a big striker. Jeff Astle at West Brom, Martin Chivers at Tottenham, John Ritchie at Stoke, John Radford at Arsenal, Andy Lockhead at the Villa. Every team had it. Derek Dugan at Wolves. Absolutely. But to me, the number 9, there aren't many. There's Erling Haaland, there's Tony, Kane. They're becoming a bit of a, I don't know if they're an outdated species, but they're becoming more of a rare beast. And a lot of teams these days aren't playing with what you would consider a big number 9. So Woody, there aren't many Chris Woods about. If you like, the thing with Chris Wood, if we'd not had him last season, we'd probably been playing Queen's Park Rangers tonight. And I tell you what, talking to number 9s, I watched Queen's Park Rangers against Luton tonight, and they've got a big guy up front QPR called Michael Frey, and he's your ultimate number 9. Whether he's Premier League class, I don't know, but he was big and he's strong. He put himself about, and that's why QPR won tonight. So, but they're so difficult to find. I think those kind of guys.
Yeah, they are, and we'll see what happens in January. But one thing's for sure, the window's shut. So Forest haven't signed another striker, and we shall see what happens. Certainly with Taiwo. Thomas asks, does anyone know if deal sheets were submitted for any Forest players after the deadline? As far as I'm aware, Thomas, none at all. Forest are finished; they're closed. That's that, and it means that the signings this window become 9. It's not 30. It's not, there's not going to be another waka chant or anything like that. The players that came through the City Ground, door were, I'm just going to get them up so I can get them absolutely right. The players that came through the door were Raymond Sosa for Forest, Jota Silva, Elliot Anderson, Alex Moreno on loan, Eric De Silva Moreira, Moreto today, I'm not going to pronounce that, Milenkovic, James Ward-Prowse, and staying put, most importantly, Morgan Gibbs-White, Murillo, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Anthony Elanga, and most others.
Great thing from Fletch today on his podcast, on the BBC podcast, Max, where he was talking about Oasis song titles for obvious reasons, right? Oasis in the zeitgeist right now, and it was Oasis song titles spliced with football players, and the one that made me chuckle was "Don't Look Back" and Elanga.
What is it with you bringing puns to this podcast? I thought that was my thing, and then now
Hey, about Outgoings? It just occurred to me. So Did Mangala leave Forest and join Everton via Lyon in the same transfer window?
He's gone on loan to Everton from Lyon. Yeah.
Forest sold Forest obviously loaned Mangala out. Was it the second half of last season? Mm-hmm. And then it was obviously a loan with an option to buy that was made permanent when all the PSR. Yeah.
And there's been loaned back to Everton within the same window.
Yeah. So there you go.
What do you guys think? You think he'll get a good reception when he comes back to the City ground?
I think so. Yeah, I think he will. I don't think he was. He wasn't an unpopular player. I don't think he was a lad. I mean, I remember him early on the first season back. We played Everton at Goodison, a 1-1 draw, and I thought he played really. It was him and Lewis O'Brien in midfield, and I thought Oral Mangala, for large swathes of that game, controlled it. It's a strange one, really, because he's a Belgian international. He played in the Euros. But if you're sort of being loaned out from one team to another that then signs you and then loans you out, I'd almost be like, hey, I don't want that. Let me sign for a club. Let me be permanent at a club and let me do my business and get on with it. It's like Josh Bowler, right? Josh, you're not going to get a game at Forest. Alex Martin's done the right thing. He's gone and got himself a new life and a new career. Yeah. And I think, this idea of lads being on loan. I mean, okay, Dale Taylor's a slightly different matter because he's a young lad with, I think, quite a decent future. But, this buying him to loan him.
I can't imagine how many Amazon packages Josh Bowler's lost. I mean, he's changed his address half a dozen times in the last 18 months, poor fella.
Bonkers, Mark, really. Yeah. It can't be good for a lad's life, and his family, girlfriend, wife, kids, whatever, being in one place at one time and being another, So I just like the idea of like commit yourself to a club and get on and do your business,
Yeah. Some good points. Sorry, I had my mic on mute. The podcast producer Dan just messaged to say, Max, can I go to bed now? Bless him. Of course you can.
This is like one of Ken Dodd's shows. We're going to go on for hours.
This needs to be a charity show. We should have a number on a tape. Contribution. Max's college fund.
Yeah, Max with Tom.
Stop it, Dave Astrid.
It's punishment, this, isn't it? It really is.
I'm going to swear on this podcast because we're past 8 minutes past midnight in a minute. Right, let's discuss the outgoings and the possible outgoings that Forest could have seen. Just before we get on to Anthony Elanga, let's touch on Josh Bowler going out on loan. I mean, we won't touch on that on that long, but Mark, that was expected. He was a player that you'd have thought Forest would have shipped off on the during the window, and he's just never really featured at Forest. I think if we were in the Championship, it may be a different story. But good signing for Preston. Would you agree?
I mean, sure. It's really hard for me to comment on a player I've not seen a minute of. So, I mean, I've seen bits and pieces here and there on the YouTubes, but yeah, I really have nothing to say other than wish the guy the best of luck. I mean, Dave and I were joking about, forwarding address after forwarding address on his mail, but that's no way to live a life. That's no way to, to have to deal with the profession. So hopefully he settles and, wish him all the best.
The Blackpool Josh Bowler in the Championship is an asset. When he was at Blackpool, I think we played them in the Championship in both games. Okay, I think we won both games the last time we played them. But Josh Bowler stood out as by far Blackpool's best player. Now, interestingly, he's gone on loan to Blackpool's great rival, Preston. So that's interesting, isn't it? You know what I mean?
I thought about
that. So
very interesting. There we go. And we'll see. Obviously, Preston under new management as well. So, so it'll be interesting to see him get a role under Paul Heckingbottom, shall we say? Right. Let's discuss Anthony Elanga because there was interest. There was big interest from Newcastle.
We're talking about outgoings. We're not going to spend at least 10 minutes talking about Harry Arter.
Who?
Bless him.
This was the transfer window, Dave. This is what you need to be focused on, Dave. This is the monumental. You're talking about the great position the club's in, how it's joined up thinking of the transfer market, how proud you are of these young men who represent us in Garibaldi. What you should be talking about is this is the bloody transfer window where we finally offloaded the biggest deadwood we've had in modern times.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I don't mean to be off to Harry Arter, but we've cut the tumour out, have we not? I mean, when a guy, I was really excited about when he
represents what went before, doesn't he? Listen, joking aside, he represents the bad old days.
Yes, he does. I remember we lost at home in an empty stadium to Bristol City 2-1. He did an interview after the match, and I watched it and I thought, boy, does this guy not like us. Boy, does this guy not want to be here at City Ground. And then when he's texting Dan Gosling to say, from inside the camp to say, don't come here. And then he ends up making thousands of pounds afterwards. I mean, fair play to his agent, but mate, actually, come to think of it, getting rid of Harry Arter is a fantastic bit of work, because that is probably the most damaging signing we've made in a long time.
Yeah. Right, let's discuss Anthony Elanga, who was heavily linked with Newcastle. It's a player that Eddie Howe's kept a close eye on. And I think one day, as much as we love Forest, Anthony Elanga will probably move on in the next few years, I can imagine. And he's only getting better at Forest and really thriving given game time, unlike when he was at, obviously, Manchester United. So let's talk about that, Dave, and maybe if you just kind of kick it off. I think Forest, played the cards right, shall we say, by saying a stupid offer and we'd maybe accept it, just, to put it out there to Newcastle at, almost come on trials. But The Athletic quickly reported it. It was then quickly shut down. Forest made it clear they didn't want to sell one of their best assets in a way. And he remains as a Forest player. Positive, and it would have been really, really disappointed to see Anthony Elanga depart tonight, wouldn't it?
It would. But I kind of saw enough on Wednesday night to think there are some other options. I mean, interestingly, Ramon Sousa, Jota Silva, there's plenty. To my way of thinking, there are only two that I was absolutely, they must stay. And I've mentioned them already. Anthony Elanga. Now, Anthony Elanga, he'll have a good game. He'll have a not so good game. Occasionally, Anthony flatters to deceive. He'll beat 2 or 3 men and then run into a brick wall. There needs to be more end product. There's a little bit of dear old Franz Carr about him, who I absolutely love. But, Franz would beat him and never put a ball in. So, my way of thinking was that if Anthony went, I wouldn't be as heartbroken as if we to lose Morgan. That is going to break my heart. I love Morgan, and the same with Murillo. But, it's only 2 years ago since Brentford were offering 18, 23, and we were really tempted, and then Tottenham offered something. Now we're saying, no, we're Nottingham Forest. We've grown, we've evolved. We don't need your 35 million. We're going to keep what we've got. And it's the first manifestation of, hang on, we're not always going to be a selling club. Not always. A lot of the time we are, but not always, So I think Forest saying, look, Newcastle, we let you have the penalty shootout, but you're not having our Anthony. I think that's really good on Forest part, that.
Yeah, it is. Do you agree there, Mark? You think that, if a stupid bid would have come in, and we're talking over maybe 60 million here, would you have accepted?
Well, I'm just going to put a little nuance on Dave's last point there about we're not a selling club. I think that we might not want to think we're a selling club. We're still a selling club. I think what's changed is we're now a selling club at the right price, not just any price.
Yeah,
right?
Agree. Yeah, agree.
Not, oh gosh, we've got to get somebody out the door. It's like, you know what? We have great players here. You want one of them? Yeah, we'll sell one. But it's got to be the right price, and it's a stupid price. But I agree with Dave wholeheartedly. I would have been very sad to see Elanga go because I love him. But Max, to your point, he's not yet fulfilled his potential. Give him another season, you might tack another 20 mil on that price. But to Dave's point, we have, blokes quite literally waiting in the wings to step into those positions. And when there was talk about Elanga going to Newcastle, possibly in a trade with Wilson, I would have bitten your hand off for Callum Wilson.
Yeah, me too.
Do I think he's the greatest striker in England? No, but he's got pedigree. He's done the Chris Wood thing. He's been top scorer in a couple of different clubs. Again, on the fringes of the England team as recently as 18 months, 2 years ago. His best days are behind him. But that would have been another really good old head to have had in the roster. Sorry,
I agree.
Americanization there. Squad that you could have brought in for Chris Wood or just even gotten on rotation. And you're getting a kind of the similar player, very like for like those two.
Yeah.
So that would have been, if we could have gotten, I don't know, 30 mil for Elanga and chuck Callum Wilson in to sweeten the deal, I'd have taken that.
Yeah, I would, Mark. That's a great shout, mate.
I agree with this comment. Waiting in the wings.
Sorry,
now that is
absolutely right. That was unintentional on this occasion, but yeah. There was a.
I wrote my pun down. I'm actually working on them as we're sitting here. It's basically, it can be summarised as the old boy with the glasses on. It needs to get a life through. You know what I mean?
Don't worry, Dave. We're all bad for it, right? But yeah, it's an interesting point, Mark. You mentioned Callum Wilson there. I think if Forest would have signed Callum Wilson, then I'd have been getting the flights booked for next year's European tour. I'd have been in.
Remember, he came on in a World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this guy's again another guy with really good experience.
He's a good player. I mean, he's just not in his prime. But then neither was Chris Wood. And to your point, Dave, Chris Wood blew it up last year. Thank God for him. Otherwise, this would be a championship pod, and Max wouldn't be hosting it because it'd be beyond him.
Not true.
Just
not true.
Not fit, you know what I mean?
You'd have been hosting it, Mark. It would have been your big chance.
Yeah.
Phil, for the viewers. Right. You'd have really had to wear the yellow tie then. Let's summarise before we touch on a game. Forest are playing today. It's 17 minutes past midnight on Saturday. Forest are playing. We've got to be at the City Ground in.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's still Friday here. That's right. It's just the first time we've done a pod across 2 days.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, record. Get that in the record books, Mark.
Forest pod are we the first one of the 362 Forest pods that exist to do that? Good grief! Wow.
No comment. Right. Let's summarise the transfer window, and very quickly, easier said than done with you two. Let's mark the window out of 10. I'll start, and I'm going to kick it off with a solid 8.5. It would have been a 9.5, a 10 out of 10 if we'd have signed a striker. But for me, good window, good off the pitch recruitment this summer, going in the right direction. Nothing more to add. Or I think Elliot Anderson's going to become one hell of a player for 35 million. People criticised that, but watching him against his former club, watching him the last few weeks, just following him closely. And I urge Forest fans to do the same tomorrow. If he starts, I'm assuming he will against Wolves. He is one hell of a player.
England are awesome, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
That's good to see.
He was called up to the England under-21s yesterday after Morgan, of course, getting his well-deserved England call-up. Dave, let's start with you. Your rating out of 10 and why?
8.5. And for exactly the same reasons as you, Max. I would have liked another striker, but I'm happy with what we've done. Some evidence of the veracity of what we did was there against Newcastle the other night. I mean, that Newcastle game was hugely informative. Important, most importantly for Nuno and his team to say, well, blimey, we've got some depth here, we've got some options. So, the business that was done early, Carlos Miguel, Jota Silva, Eric da Silva Moreira, Sousa, and then latterly Moreno, all of them played well the other night. We haven't touched much on Sousa. What a fantastic free kick he whipped in, right? But I think the crock of gold is Elliot Anderson. I watched him. He's come in. He's fitted in straight away. At Southampton in the first half, he gave us a fantastic fluidity going forward that we've lacked. Before it's been two holding midfielders, and there's been this slight sort of void between those two and Morgan and what the other three up front do. Elliot Anderson was moving between the two of them. And the other night, I thought he wrestled control of the midfield away from Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton. And that is no mean feat. The kid, when he gets to the point where he's fit enough to go through a 90-minute, he could be the kind of guy who will control the game for Forest. And we've not had somebody like that for a long time. And I think he might be a fantastic foil for Morgan, to say to Morgan, look, Morg, you don't go and have to, because you're captain, and I know we all know, Morgan, that you're honest as the day's long and you care about the fee that was paid and you need to pay us back. But Morgan, you don't have to do everything for everybody. And Elliot, I think, will say, it's all right, Morg, leave this bit to me. You go and do that bit, and the balance of the side will be better. I think there's some people whose views on football I really respect. Des Oldham has been raving about Elliot Anderson. And if Des Oldham says he's a good player, he's a good player. And I think Elliot Anderson might well be the jewel, the nicest sweet in the bag. But the rest of it, the rest of the confectionery I think is pretty decent. So an 8.5 for me.
Mark, do you want to summarise for us?
I'm surprised that Dave didn't start talking about Horlicks and Werther's, given his age. But,
cheeky young scamp.
I think there's probably only about 2 years between us, mate, to be perfectly honest. But anyway, no, I agree on the Anderson comments. And honestly, if we're going to stay with things that are delicious, how tasty is the prospect? And we know Anderson could probably fill in for Morgan Gibbs-White, but if Morgan Gibbs-White is our starting number 10, how tasty is the prospect of being able to move Anderson, Yates, Dominguez, Sangare in behind him? I mean, there are so many combinations there that it's fantastic. In terms of ranking the window, Max, if I break the squad up into, goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, stroke wingers, and then your centre forwards, and, we're going to rank it out of 10 and assign 2.5 to each of those areas. I think we did great with the goalkeepers. We have a good deep bench there. Defence looks good. I think we bolstered ourselves both centrally and on the flanks. Very, very happy with the midfield, both in the middle and out wide. No complaints there. Again, it's disappointing to come up short in bringing another striker into the mix. So I give us a good solid 7.5. Let's tip it up to 8 just because of Jota's goal the other night. That was special. So yeah, I'll go with an 8 as well.
That was special. Right, it's very late. So just before we get going, it is for me. It is for me.
You go class tomorrow. No, wait, tomorrow's Saturday. No class for you. I know you're right. Sleep in.
I'm not. I don't start uni for another month, but I'm a working student. I'm a working student, Mark. Lay off me. All right.
Before we go, I've been thinking about it a whole pod. And so you can fit in with the new developing hyphenated Forest squad. I think by deed poll, you should change your name to first name Match Day hyphenated with Max.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Hey, Max. Yeah. Match Day, what time are you getting there tomorrow, Match Day? Match Day, come and get your tea. Come on, your tea's ready, Match Day. Can imagine Alison and Ben. Honestly, Mark, Alison and Ben will be going, where's our Match Day gone? Is he giving us a list today? What,
Was that your idea? Was Match Day with Max your idea? Was that your old man?
It was my old man.
Hey,
we were sat waiting for God, this podcast goes off on a tangent, doesn't it? Wow. We were sat waiting for a pizza 10 years. Well, was it? No, it was probably a bit less, about 6 years ago now. And it was rebranded.
You weren't even speaking at that point then, yeah.
No, I wasn't. Yeah, my voice was a lot more squeaky and I was a lot more smaller, and I couldn't grow a beard then, Mark, believe me. And we were sat waiting for a pizza, and I said to my dad, I said, we need a catchy name. I said, we need something unique. And he was like, well, everyone talks about when they get up for like a morning, it's match day, don't they? How good is it that football's back on a match day and beer's on a match day? So how about you tie it in with a bit of alliteration, Match Day with Max. So and it was a slight play on Match of the Day. So there you go. So I think, hopefully if I ever get the Match of the Day gig, we can call that Match of the Day with Max.
Oh, Dave, can you imagine it? If we just hang on in there, mate, we could be on the BBC because he's going to take us with him, surely.
He'll have me on saying, and you'll not win anything with kids.
I'm going to go for the more useful approach.
And if Forest win the Premier League, Mark, he'll have to do the first show of the next season in just his skiddies, won't he? You know what I mean?
It might be the first time ever. Not to win.
I might beat Lineker because he didn't really do it properly. He had like swimming shorts on, so I might challenge him and say, "I'll do it nude." So there you go. Clip that. If Forest ever win the Premier League, I'm not doing the Garibaldi Red podcast nude, but I'll do Match of the Day nude. All right.
Yeah. Well, thank heavens for small mercies.
You can tell this is a late night one, can't you? Honestly.
Right. Just before we go, final predictions for tomorrow's game against Wolves. Forest could make it 7 points. In the first 3 games, we could be in that lovely top 7 or 8 in the Premier League table. Dave, just summarise how you're feeling going into tomorrow.
Wary, because I know for a fact that Gary and his lads will be really smarting from what happened last week in that second half.
Yeah.
I ran a team for 17 years and I was always very, very wary of a team that had a thumping. personally speaking, I would be liking Wolves to come to us tomorrow, having knocked Chelsea off last week. As it is, they won in the Carabao. They beat Burnley. But my view is that they'll have been on the training ground this week, and Gary O'Neill would have been telling them very, very strongly, it does not happen again. I expect Wolverhampton Wanderers to come and be really obdurate. And I think Wolves, it's not going to be a spectacular match, I don't believe. I mean, the 2-2 last year was a cracking match. It was end-to-end. Cunha scored 2 really good goals. He's a good player, Cunha. They've got some good lads. I don't know what happened to them second half last week. They themselves are at a loss to explain it. Gary couldn't work it out. Cunha was interviewed after the game. I don't know where we went. It was like Chelsea came out in the second half. Madueke had to come out and tell them how much he actually really liked Wolverhampton after what he'd said. Wolves, I think Wolves stayed in the dressing room and watched the episodes of Only Fools and Horses on TV Gold all afternoon rather than coming out the second half, right? But the thing is, a lot of people are thinking, we'll beat the Wolves because they lost 6-2 last week. It does not work like that. Brian Clough would be telling them, like our boys tomorrow, this is not going to be easy. I'll tell you what, Max, I said it on the pod last night. Heart says 1-0 Forest. Head says 1-1. Because it's that kind of game where if ours go into that ground, and they will do, they'll go in, we'll beat the Wolves because they haven't got any points yet. They just got beat 6-2. Doesn't work like that. A 1-0 win tomorrow, and I'll be elated, as I was last week. What I would say about Forest is, if they recreate what they did at Southampton and a lot of what the second string did on Wednesday night, and they're able to take the essences of those and put them on that pitch tomorrow, Forest will win. But write Wolves off at your peril. 1-0 Forest, I'm going to go in the heart.
Yeah, we will take that. Which brings us to the end, really. That's it. I said we'd get done before midnight to let everyone go to bed. So, sorry, Mark, you don't get your thoughts on. I know you are. You two. You both.
I can give you a 10-second one if you want.
All right, go on then. Counting. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Forest to win 2-1. Morgan Gibbs-White to score and assist the winner.
9 seconds. Well, no, I'm joking. It was much less than that. Well done. He's took his tie off. He's thrown. Oh no! Don't strip, Mark. Don't strip. All right, yeah. Not that late, mate. Come on. People will start phoning in soon. Right, that does us nicely. Get me to bed. Right, thanks for all the comments. We've had so many. 106 people are still watching now at 28 minutes past midnight, which is crazy. So thank you, everybody, for all the support recently. This podcast is doing well, and we appreciate it. And thank you very much. It means a lot, given that it was a bit of a challenge at the start, but we found our feet, we'll be honest. And we're here, and we'll be here throughout the whole season. And when Forest, of course, ultimately win the Champions League in 10 years, although maybe there'll be somebody new then presenting the podcast. But yeah, fingers crossed for a Forest win. No, I don't think so, Dave. Fingers crossed for a Forest win. Fingers crossed for a Forest win tomorrow against Wolves. And we shall see you on Monday as well for our main episode. Sarah should be back with us then. So we look forward to having her return after a few weeks off. So we look forward to that, and we look forward to talking more Forest. Mark, Dave, thank you very much. I'm not going to say you can have your final words because otherwise we'll be here for another 5 minutes. But look, Dave, I just wanted to say to you, mate, at the end of this podcast, there's a lot of people that have obviously been talking about the amount of M's being signed in terms of that Forest back four and even the goalkeepers. And there's two people on the podcast tonight, Max and Mark. But what I will say, Dave, is don't get upset, right? There's no need to get upset. Don't look back in anger. Just look back at Max and Mark. From all of us at Garibaldi Red, happy deadline day. Bye-bye.